Emily's eyes lit up every time we talked about the party. For 3 weeks, she poured her entire heart into planning her cousin Lily's birthday bash, Pinterest boards, custom decorations, baking ideas, and even organizing the music playlist with transitions. I watched her excitement bloom like spring in full color. As her mom, I saw the spark that was sometimes dimmed by the limitations of her wheelchair come alive. This party meant everything to her. I even chipped in $2, $300 worth. From the cake to custom flower arrangements and even a magician Emily personally requested because Lily once said she loved Harry Potter magic. It wasn't just money, it was love invested. But the day before the big event, when Emily didn't get her formal invitation, I brushed it off. Maybe it's coming tomorrow, I said gently. But the next day, nothing came. Still, Emily got dressed, wearing her favorite sky blue dress and matching ribbons she made herself. I texted Karen to confirm the time. Her reply hit like a gut punch. Hey, just a heads up. It might be better if Emily doesn't come. You know, with the space and the ramp and stuff. It's just complicated. My fingers trembled as I read it again. Complicated? After 3 weeks of dedication and love? I showed Emily the message. Her face changed. No tears, no scream. Just stillness. A quiet heartbreak I've never seen before in her eyes. She just nodded and whispered, "Okay, Mom. I guess I'm not needed there." I hugged her, heart racing with anger. This wasn't going to end like this. They excluded my daughter because she was in a wheelchair. They took her love, her creativity, her kindness, and threw it aside like it didn't matter. We didn't go. But we sent a gift. One that would flip the entire party upside down. Karen and I had grown up like sisters. Our kids were born just months apart. I'd always believed family stood for inclusion, for lifting one another up, especially when life handed someone extra challenges. But after that message, I saw things clearly. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was a choice. A cruel, calculated decision to leave Emily out because her presence might be inconvenient. I called Karen, not to argue, but to listen. I needed to hear it from her mouth. Maybe she'd realize the weight of what she had done. Karen, Emily was really looking forward to the party. She helped plan most of it. "What's going on?" I asked calmly, my voice tight. There was silence, then an awkward laugh. "Oh, come on. You know how tight the space is." I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. You know how kids can stare. Stare? My daughter had faced 100 stares in her 12 years and still walked, or wheeled, through life with more grace than most adults. Karen wasn't protecting Emily. She was protecting her picture-perfect image of a party. No ramps, no questions, no burdens. "She's your niece, Karen," I said, holding back the emotion that swelled in my throat. "I love her, you know that," she replied quickly. "But maybe next time. This one's just not ideal." Not ideal. That phrase stayed in my chest like a stone. Later that evening, my husband came home from work and found me in the kitchen, staring blankly at the unused decorations we had picked out together. Emily was in her room, quiet but not crying. She hadn't spoken much since the message. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. I told him everything, word for word. He was livid. They used her ideas, her planning, her spirit, and then tossed her aside. "That's not just wrong. That's heartless," he said. I nodded. "And it's not going unnoticed." We sat together, watching the video Karen posted online. The party looked stunning, custom tablecloths, pink and gold balloons, handmade centerpieces. All Emily's vision. But not even a mention of her name. Then came the comments. "So classy. Who did your setup? It's beautiful." Karen replied to every one of them with thanks. All me, or I had some help from a designer friend. Designer friend? That was my daughter. The one she told not to come. I looked at my husband and said, "We're sending them a gift. One they'll never forget." He raised a brow. "What do you have in mind?" I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind that comes when a mother's heart breaks and something fierce rises in its place. Let's just say, it'll remind everyone exactly who made that party unforgettable. The next morning, I walked into Emily's room and found her gently organizing the small cards she'd designed for the party. Each one had a glittery edge, personalized with the name of a guest, and a sweet message like "You light up every room," or "This party wouldn't be the same without you." She had spent hours cutting, gluing, and writing those. And now, not a single one would be used. She looked up at me with a small, hopeful smile. "Mom, did Aunt Karen say anything yet? Maybe she changed her mind?" I froze for a moment, unsure how to break her heart gently. "No, baby," I said softly, kneeling beside her. "They've decided to keep it small. But I want you to know, none of this is your fault." Her smile faded, but she nodded slowly. She was too used to pretending it didn't hurt. I saw it in the way her fingers fidgeted, how she blinked fast to stop the tears. I thought, maybe if I made everything beautiful, she'd see I can still be part of things, she whispered, her voice cracking. I just wanted to feel normal. That sentence shattered me. My daughter, whose strength I admired every single day, felt like she had to earn a seat at the table. Like she had to prove she deserved inclusion. "You are more than normal, Emily. You're exceptional. And no one, has the right to make you feel otherwise," I said, kissing her forehead and hugging her tight. Later that day, I sat alone with a cup of coffee and my phone in hand, scrolling through old photos, birthdays, school plays, hospital visits, therapy milestones. Every one of those moments was a reminder of how far Emily had come. She wasn't a burden. She was a miracle. And yet, she was treated like a decoration, one they could choose to leave off the table. I could feel the rage boiling quietly inside me. But I didn't want revenge just for the sake of anger. I wanted justice. Dignity. I wanted everyone in that party, smiling, laughing, posting Instagram stories, to know exactly who they chose to exclude. That's when the idea fully formed. The gift we'd send had to carry more weight than 1,000 angry words. It had to say, "You may not have invited her, but she still outshines you all." I opened my laptop, pulled up Emily's digital sketches, and selected the original mood board she had created for the party, the color palette, seating chart, menu ideas, centerpieces, all of it. Then I crafted a custom hardcover book using those designs, with a beautiful gold-lettered cover. Designed with love by Emily, the party they'll never forget. Inside the front page, I wrote a message in fine print. Dedicated to those who exclude silently but celebrate loudly. Love doesn't need an invitation. We had a gift wrapped in crystal white paper with a soft pink ribbon, her favorite color. And then we waited. Saturday arrived, the day of the grand party. Karen had spared no expense, a private backyard venue decked out with pastel balloons, themed desserts, a hired magician, even a red carpet for photo ops. Everyone in the neighborhood was talking about it. Cars lined the street. Kids were dressed to the nines. Emily sat beside me near the window, watching it all through the sheer curtain. I saw the tightness in her jaw, the way she tried to act like it didn't matter. But I knew better. "Do you want to go for a drive?" I asked gently. She shook her head, staring ahead. "I don't want to go anywhere people look at me like I'm invisible." That was it. The moment everything inside me shifted. I texted my brother, who was dropping off the gift. "Make sure she opens it during the party. In front of everyone." He simply replied, "Got it." I had designed the package with care. It wasn't just a book, it was a message in layers. The outer box was matte black, elegant and heavy, with Emily's name embossed in gold foil. Inside was a handwritten letter. To the party planner whose invitation got lost in the mail. "Thank you for your love, your creativity, and your beautiful heart. Even if they couldn't see it, you still made magic. From the mom who sees everything." Underneath the letter was the custom coffee table book, designed with love by Emily, with page after page showcasing every thoughtful detail Emily had come up with. At the very end of the book, there was a fold-out page with photos of Emily over the years, at the hospital learning to walk again, smiling during therapy, painting, gardening, baking cupcakes, all with captions like, "The strongest girl I know. Beauty, brains, and bravery. Just because I use wheels doesn't mean I don't move the world." My brother timed it perfectly. Right when the cake was being brought out, he stepped up, smiling, and said, "Oh, Karen, almost forgot. This is from Emily." Karen blinked, visibly confused, and took the sleek box. "From Emily?" she echoed, clearly uncomfortable now that her convenient invisibility tactic was turning into center stage. She opened it slowly, eyes scanning the letter first. A silence fell over her. People started to gather around. Murmurs rose. She opened the book next. Her eyes widened. Pages turned. Some of the parents leaned in, whispering to each other. The tone in the crowd shifted fast, from cheerful to confused to something almost shameful. One mother gasped softly. "She planned this whole thing?" Another guest, a father, frowned. "And wasn't even invited?" Karen's face turned pale. She tried to laugh it off, but it was too late. The truth was there, in beautiful fonts and glitter borders. Emily, the girl in the wheelchair they quietly left out, had just stolen the spotlight from the center of their party, without ever stepping inside. The silence at the party had started to settle into something heavier now. It wasn't just an awkward pause, it was an echoing realization spreading like ripples across the guests. Karen, standing there with the book still open in her trembling hands, looked up and saw faces no longer filled with admiration, but with disapproval. My brother later told me the shift was instant. One of the moms, Mrs. Hendricks, who had 2 kids in wheelchairs herself, stepped forward and said loudly, "This is beautiful. Emily made all of this?" Karen nodded stiffly, as if forced to confess. "Then why wasn't she here today?" Karen tried to recover with a nervous chuckle. "Oh, things just didn't align. We wanted to keep it small." "Small?" another guest snapped. "There are over 70 people here. And magicians. And pony rides." She gestured broadly. "Don't insult us." People began murmuring in agreement. One couple picked up their daughter and whispered something before walking straight out the door. Another family followed. One by one, parents began collecting their children, offering polite but pointed goodbyes. The magician, noticing the awkward vibe, slowly packed up his gear. Karen's husband stood frozen by the cake table, clearly unsure whether to intervene or hide. Karen finally snapped, her voice shrill, "It was just complicated. We didn't know how she'd manage with everything going on. It's not easy accommodating someone like that." And there it was. The moment of true karma. The line that sealed her fate. Someone gasped, loud and clear. My brother said it sounded like the air had been punched out of the party. "Someone like that?" a mother repeated, horrified. "Karen, she's your niece." The energy turned completely. No one was smiling anymore. One mom stormed off muttering, "I don't want my kids around people who think like that." Another added, "I thought this was a family party." Clearly, it's selective family only. Back at home, I was sitting beside Emily when my brother texted. "They're opening the gift now. You might want to be by your phone." Moments later, another text came in. "Half the guests are leaving. Karen's face looks like she's seen a ghost." I didn't show the messages to Emily. I just reached out and held her hand. She looked at me, confused, but I smiled softly. Meanwhile, at the party, Karen was spiraling. Her carefully curated image, supermom, the perfect host, the queen bee of their friend group, was dissolving in front of everyone. And the catalyst? The girl she had tried to erase from the celebration entirely. The most powerful part? Emily didn't yell. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply told her story through creativity, kindness, and quiet strength. And it hit harder than any public scene ever could. The revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Because true justice is seen in the way silence falls when the truth walks into the room. By the time Emily and I arrived home, the house was quiet. The kind of quiet that speaks volumes, the kind where you know something big has just happened, something that's changed everything. I wasn't sure if Emily had heard what had happened at the party, but the way she was sitting, eyes wide but calm, I knew she did. She was quiet too, but in a different way, a peaceful one, as though she'd finally found clarity. Emily had always been the sensitive one, the one who felt the weight of other people's opinions, especially the cruel ones. But today, she had proven that she was more than capable of handling the hurt and rising above it. She didn't need to shout for justice. She didn't need to say a word. The truth she'd revealed was louder than any confrontation could ever be. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my brother. Mom is furious. She wants you to come over tomorrow and explain what happened. Can you? I think they need you to clear things up. I didn't respond right away. There was no need for explanations anymore. The truth had already made its mark. I looked over at Emily, sitting next to me. Her expression was softer now, a sign of relief, though the shadow of what had happened at the party still lingered in her eyes. But she wasn't defeated. She was growing stronger by the minute. The next morning, I decided to visit my parents. Not to explain, but to put things in perspective for them. I walked into their house, where my mother was pacing in the living room, my father sitting in his favorite armchair, arms crossed tightly over his chest. Neither looked happy to see me. We need to talk, my father grumbled, his voice low. What the hell happened at that party? I took a deep breath before responding, my tone steady and calm. What happened at that party wasn't just about Emily not being invited. It was about the way you both have treated her all these years, as though she was an afterthought. You've always favored Karen, always expected her to be perfect. And when Emily tried to make something beautiful for the family, you ignored her. You rejected her, even before the party. You were ashamed of her. My father scoffed. We never said that. No, I said softly, but you've acted like it. The tension was thick in the air. It felt as if the years of pent-up frustration and hurt were finally coming to the surface, and for the first time in ages, I felt like I could speak my truth without fear of being dismissed. We didn't mean to hurt you, my mother murmured, but it was too late. Their words were hollow now, echoes of a past that had been too long in the making. The damage had already been done, and it wasn't just about one incident, it was about years of overlooking the person that mattered the most. I left their house without an apology, but with something far more valuable: freedom. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need their approval. I had long stopped waiting for their acknowledgement. Emily and I, together, had created our own path, and I wasn't going to let their toxic views weigh us down anymore. At the same time, back at the party, Emily's gift, a beautifully crafted photo album of all the family moments they had missed while ignoring her, had left an impact. The truth had been spoken, not in words, but in an undeniable, unspoken message. Emily's brilliance had been on full display, and she didn't need anyone's approval to prove her worth. In that quiet moment, I realized something profound: the best revenge wasn't about humiliating them or proving them wrong. It was about living our lives authentically, proving that we don't need toxic people to validate us. We can create our own worth, our own success. And that's exactly what Emily did. The moment she walked away from that party and the people who never believed in her, she walked straight into her future. A future where she was in control. A future where she was free to be herself without fear of judgment. And as for me? I knew, deep down, that Emily's true success wasn't in what she had accomplished but in how she had handled it all. How she had stood tall, gracefully accepting the gift of clarity, and most importantly, how she had chosen to rise above. A few weeks later, the phone rang as I was preparing dinner. The caller ID read Mom. I hesitated for a moment before answering. I hadn't spoken to her since the incident at the party. To be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to engage in another heated discussion. But I knew that ignoring it would only allow the wound to fester. Hello? I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. There was a long silence on the other end. I could feel my mother's hesitation, as though she were unsure of how to begin. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and tired. Your father and we've been talking about what happened. About Emily and the gift and everything else. And we realized, we've been wrong. I almost didn't know how to respond. Was this an apology? A confession? I wasn't sure. I don't know how we let it get this far, she continued, her voice breaking a little. We always thought we were doing what was best for Karen. But we ignored Emily. And I see now how much it hurt her. Hurt you too. Her words hung in the air, awkward and uncertain. Part of me wanted to reach through the phone and pull her into my arms, to accept her apology and let the past be buried. But another part of me, the one that had seen Emily's pain, couldn't let go so easily. We should have been there for her, for both of you. But we made excuses. We were too wrapped up in our own lives to see what we were doing. I sat down on the couch, feeling the weight of her words settle over me. They were sincere, but there was something about the timing that felt almost too late. Emily and I had already moved on. We had been living our lives without the need for validation or approval. We had learned to embrace the freedom that came with no longer waiting for permission to be seen. I closed my eyes for a moment, gathering my thoughts before responding. Mom, I said quietly, it's not just about Emily. It's about everything we've gone through over the years. The way you and Dad treated her as if she was invisible. The way you assumed Karen deserved everything because she was the perfect child. It hurt, but what hurt even more was how you never even saw it. The silence stretched again, this time heavy with the weight of my words. I wasn't sure if my mother could fully comprehend the depth of the pain she had caused, but it didn't matter anymore. The damage had been done. Don't get me wrong, I continued, I appreciate that you're trying to make things right. But the truth is, we've already moved on. Emily has moved on. She's a stronger person now. She doesn't need your approval or validation. We don't need anyone's approval. We've found our own worth. There was another long pause before she spoke again, this time her voice tinged with regret. I know. And I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. We're sorry. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't know what to say. I didn't need her apology as much as she thought I did. What I needed, what we both needed, was a real change, a change in how we viewed each other, a shift in the way we treated those we loved. And while her words were a step in the right direction, they weren't enough to erase the years of neglect. After a long silence, I finally said, I'll think about it, Mom. But Emily and I are doing fine now. And we'll keep moving forward. I hung up the phone and sat in the quiet of the living room, reflecting on the conversation. It felt like a chapter had closed, but not in the way I had expected. There was no dramatic moment of closure, no emotional breakthrough. Just a quiet understanding that some wounds may never fully heal, but life goes on. And as for Emily? She was already looking ahead, planning for her future, creating the life she wanted, on her own terms. The real revenge was in the way she had handled everything with grace, in the way she had turned the hurt into something far more powerful than any confrontation ever could be. She had shown everyone who doubted her just what she was capable of. And that was more than enough for me. Months passed, and things began to settle. Emily and I had both learned lessons from everything that had transpired. We had learned the true meaning of strength and resilience, not the kind that's handed to you by others, but the kind you find within yourself when you've been pushed to the brink and had no choice but to rise. Emily's confidence had grown in ways I hadn't expected. She no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. The incident at the party had been a catalyst for her, a turning point that had unlocked a level of maturity and power that could only come from realizing the true nature of some people in your life. She had stopped seeking approval, not just from my parents but from anyone. She had found her own worth. One evening, I watched her as she sat in the living room, looking through her phone. I could tell she was deep in thought, a slight smile on her face as she scrolled. "You've been busy," I said, sitting down beside her. She looked up, her eyes twinkling. Yeah. It's official now. I got the job offer. I'm going to be a lead designer at that startup I told you about. My heart swelled with pride. Emily had worked so hard to get to this point. She had fought to make a name for herself, even when others told her she wouldn't be able to. And now, she was stepping into a role that not only paid well but also gave her the creative freedom she had always wanted. I placed a hand on hers, squeezing it gently. I'm so proud of you. She smiled, but there was a flicker of something deeper in her eyes, satisfaction, accomplishment, and something else, something I hadn't expected. I'm proud of myself too. But you know what, Mom? This isn't just about the job. It's about showing everyone, that I don't need their approval. I've got everything I need to succeed right here. Her words hit me like a wave. I had always known that Emily had the potential to achieve greatness, but hearing her say it with such conviction made me realize just how far she had come. She wasn't the girl who had been passed over and ignored anymore. She was a woman who had earned her place in the world. The phone rang, interrupting our quiet moment. It was my mom. I had a feeling it was going to be another attempt at reconciliation. This time, I felt no rush to answer. Emily had made her peace, and so had I. The wound had healed, but the scar was still there, a reminder of everything we had gone through and everything we had learned. Emily looked at me, raising an eyebrow. You gonna answer it? I shook my head. No. I've made my peace with it. I don't need to answer anymore. We both sat back, watching the phone ring on the table, then slowly fade into silence. The truth had sunk in, we didn't need validation from anyone to feel complete. We had built ourselves up from the ground, and no one could take that away. As the night wore on, we celebrated. Not just for the job offer, but for all the victories we had claimed. For all the years of hardship, the heartache, and the growth. It was Emily's moment, but it was mine too. We had both overcome. We had both won. I poured us a glass of wine, holding it up in a quiet toast. To us, I said, smiling. To freedom, to strength, and to the fact that we don't need anyone else's approval to be happy. Emily clinked her glass against mine, and we both took a sip, the taste of victory sweet on our tongues. As the night settled into a comfortable peace, I knew that everything had come full circle. There was no need for further words, no need for grand gestures. Emily had become the woman she had always been meant to be, and I had finally learned how to let go. The revenge wasn't in what we could have said or done to my parents, it was in how we chose to live our lives, on our terms, free from the need to justify our worth to anyone. And as I sat there, watching Emily smile, I couldn't help but feel that this was the real reward. We had found ourselves, and that was more than enough. The last line lingered in my mind, a quiet affirmation, we had made it, and we were free.